Yo, what up everybody, it's Hebrew and we're about to get into another video, finally getting back to this tutorial series of this year and next year. So we're going to start off with one looking at some mastering. I am not your bona fide mastering engineer. I'll save that job for Bobcat, Yo Nova, and all those good people right now. But in 2020, it is pretty important to learn either the stages of mastering or even how to master to help better your mixes. So you're going to get a first inside look of how I take mastering. I have been refining this process over the past 3 years, and I have still not came to a conclusion on how do I master specifically and what do I specifically want to do and what are the processes, the components, the plugins, the things that I do to get from a good mix to a great master. So I'm still in the experiment stage just as much as most of you guys are. So what you're seeing right now is 2 limiters here and a reference track, the original track, and my finished mastered mixed version, and you'll see what that means later. The reference is Bonobo Sapphire, and you can see the mix track is called I Need Love by BC9. So here's the original. I'm gonna play a snippet of that, and then I'm gonna play with you the reference and what I've done. Okay, so what I want you to understand first starting off is that in this original one, the highs are dipped and the mid is boosted. It sounds like an upside down smiley curve. This is what I'm hearing. So first thing I do is I run the limiters and see where I can get it. Really do all my manipulation on a layer basis using PreSonus event effects. This is where I can throw in as many plugins as I want to, press them all together, and spit out a rendered version. The first thing we start off with, or I start off with, is the limiter. Now you see the ceiling section? The ceiling section is no different from the L1, where the threshold and the ceiling is tied together, which means when you bring down the ceiling 8, 9, 10 dB, you're also bringing down the threshold simultaneously. So you're not going to hear a change in level, but you will begin clipping and having reduction at some point. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm using the PreSonus limiter on A mode. More about this limiter in another video, but the main reason this limiter is being used is because if you look at the waveform, my intention is to get rid of some of these spurious peaks that are occurring here. So you see from here to here, you're gonna find changes after the mix is printed into its final form. And if you wanna look at its final form, you do not have many of these spurious peaks. So the limiter is running in soft clip mode for that reason. The next thing I'm doing is adding a small threshold 1 dB extra push into it just to help with the reduction. So this right here is making a change without changing the level balance, and this is giving 1 more dB of adjustment and making it 1 dB louder. But again, more on this later. The last plugin I want to show you in this video is the Aaron EQ mid. With this mid EQ, this is a emulation of the Poltec MP EQ. If you know about the EQ P1A, the main behemoth, then this is just a mid-range section. If you know about Ozone 9, you also have something similar here. The Ozone 9 has a vintage EQ and is put together with the EQ P1A and the MP EQ. The same thing you see on the bottom here, this is your MP EQ. From 200 to 7K, you see the similarities. This is a cut. These are the boosts from 200 to 1K, and then from 1.5K to 5K. Funny, it doesn't go to 7K. What I'm listening for is this snare. Pay close attention to this snare. Remember when I said that this was very mid-rangey? What I'm hearing is the area where that snare is really strong is too much. And I'm getting that around 4K. So this is the frequency that is scooped inside of here. You see, at that point, I heard a difference. Not necessarily me perfecting it, but I heard a difference. Mastering is going to be all about making differences and knowing when to stop. You feel as though you hear something is wrong, you correct it up until a point where you don't want to touch it anymore. So the minute that I hear something has changed, I stop and I evaluate. Do not try to push it like you do in mixing. Mastering is working with the entire stereo mix, which means elements are compounded on top of each other. Making a dB change of 2K is just not simply doing that for one instrument. You're doing that for 20, 30 instruments at a time. It can really change not only the dynamics of the mix, but the frequency balance of the mix. So just do things until you hear a change. When you hear a change, stop. So one more time, this is what we're getting. Listening to this, I know it's somewhere around there. And from right here, I stop. Because the next part is the boosting inside of here. But I always like using the plugins that solve a specific need. So knowing that this is a mid-range problem, I reach for EQ that's going to deal with the mid-range. All right, so this is part one of this video. And there's more than likely going to be 3 parts to this entire series. So please stay tuned and we'll cover the rest of the event effects section. Thank you for watching and have a good day.